I'm watching two people who
It's like a train wreck.
Who I have more respect for when it comes to tactical operations than any other two people that I know in my life, and I'm watching them handle a microphone situation.
It's trying to kill me.
And it's handled.
And it's taken care of.
Simone Biles, you were saying?
Yeah. I was, hey, how are you?
She wasn't smart this week.
No. I feel like there was some peer pressure and maybe some alcohol involved. I mean, I don't want to assume alcohol every time, but that's the way it felt like, because she kind of lashed out and started calling Riley Gaines a nasty person and all this kind of nonsense. It was just ridiculous.
But I like the rebuttal. Somebody said, how many gold medals do you think you would have if dudes were competing against you in your stuff?
Yeah. I mean,
0.
Right. There's a reason that women don't compete in the pommel horse. Right? I mean,
yeah.
You know.
And in the ring.
And there's a reason that guys don't compete in the balance beam.
Bingo.
You know, because men and women are different. Hey, Mr. Chris Weber behind you.
Mm-hmm. What do you want, Chris?
Chris wants you to scoot closer to Brink.
Oh.
Or you can both move just a little bit to your right.
I'll meet her in the middle.
Right behind the other camera. There.
No, kind of get and then
God.
And then I'm gonna take a look.
What a well-oiled machine.
You guys are crushed.
Tell you what. The flow of the show reflects the host.
Okay.
And there you go. I think I've said enough.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Thank y'all for coming in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How's everything going with Defense Systems?
Good.
Y'all busy?
Yes. Yeah, extremely. Yep.
I mean, I love that you're busy, because I love that people are taking my advice and the advice that we talk about all the time and being prepared. I don't, when I talk about Defense Systems, and I hope y'all hear me every once in a while talking about them, I know you're busy and you're out there and you're training folks, but I say the same thing almost every time I talk about Defense Systems, is that the likelihood of something awful happening at your workplace, your church, your school is very, very low, but it's not 0. Yep. And that's the point. It's not 0. And every person that I've ever seen come out of a tragic situation, like we've talked about in the past, every time you hear somebody say, well, I never thought it would happen here. Because
every
you don't.
Time.
Right?
Yeah.
We still hear it every day.
We do, and people still say it when they're interviewed after, whether it be an assistant principal or whatever at a school. And I get the mindset, but at this point in society, I mean, I think most people have understand that there is something you can do for your people to help if the worst day does happen. So why would you not do that? Right. And people are doing it. We're busy. We're about to be
real busy.
Yeah, crazy. Busy.
Why are you about to be crazy busy?
Summer, schools,
off time for teachers and whatnot.
Yeah, we're booked for about 5.
Just 3 weeks.
That was a discussion we had at lunch. For about 5 or 6 weeks, we're booked every day, sometimes twice a day, and all over the U.S. And it's pretty.
Well, I mean, people want the best when it comes to this type of thing, and I happen to know who the best is, and that would be Defense Systems.
You're a little bit biased, but thank you. Yeah, we love what we do, and we hate that we have to do it. But I had a speaking engagement today. She was doing some medical training today. Gloria's in Georgia speaking at a heads of school conference today. I mean, we're just all over the place.
All right, before I get accused, I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. Pardon me.
Sure.
So Simone Biles shot her mouth off on social media. And Riley Gaines responded, and Simone Biles was saying, she was body shaming Riley Gaines, saying she looked like a man or whatever, which was odd because Simone Biles has been body shamed in the past.
Yeah.
So I guess rules are for thee and not for me or whatever. Anyway, Simone has come out and apologized, said, I'm sorry. I apologize for what I said. Shouldn't have said it. And Riley Gaines has accepted that apology.
Wow.
Taking the high road, saying that, here, let me play it for you. Just stand by. Here's Riley Gaines accepting
she got to fulfill. That's the problem I have with that. But nonetheless, I accept her apology. I see this truthfully as a really big win. You have this really famous public figure who is now issuing a groveling public apology and backtracks after, again, tweeting pro-trans propaganda, if you will. This scenario would have been unthinkable a year, certainly 2 years ago. Whether it's sincere or not, I think that's a different question. But nonetheless, she learned we are not living in 2020 anymore.
Yeah, there's Riley Gaines, Gallatin's own Riley Gaines. I promised that I would pay that off, and I paid that off. Riley is a Tennessee treasure, and we appreciate her. And I appreciate the fact that she's championing this issue that men and women are different. And I have you here, Tracy.
Yes, you do.
You exist in a male-dominated space.
Yes.
And you've had to probably overcome. I mean, I don't want to assume anything. Let me ask it as a question. Sure. I mean, did you have to overcome sexism?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty typical, I think, in the job that I used to do. But you can either overcome that and train yourself and train your body to be better and push standards, or you can use that as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just like when they start, which this is happening all across the country, you are starting to lower standards for police officers. So people can say all day, women can't do push-ups and women can't do pull-ups and women can't do this and women can't do that. And that's bull.
Right.
You know, like you can, and you just have to train for it and have some mental fortitude to understand that sometimes in life you have to make yourself real uncomfortable. And people don't like to do that anymore.
One thing she won't tell you, though, by the way, but when she went through the SWAT process, they offered for her to qualify at a lower, like a female standard.
Like a different. And you wouldn't do it?
She refused.
They asked me if I got an email from a female higher up in the department than I was, and that said, basically, hey, would you have any interest in putting in for the SWAT team if we lowered the standards for women? And I told her, absolutely not. That would make me not put in for the SWAT team.
But you would do it.
To the same standard.
I ended up doing it several years later to the same standard.
And did more dead hang pull-ups than some of the guys.
Well, I mean, I'm certain that you could do more pull-ups than me right now. And what people choose to try to warp the conversation.
Yes.
And obviously the most physically fit women are going to be able to destroy a large portion of the male population when it comes to physical activity.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that there are biological differences between men and women. Women can do certain things better than men.
Yeah.
Men can do certain things better than women. There's nothing wrong with that. Just recognizing that and understanding, okay, are these job descriptions going to fit for you? And for the most part, they do for everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
And the differences in men and women are scientific. You know, it's how we were created. We were created different for very specific reasons and why we were put on this planet. And everybody wants to act like there is that mentality sometimes with females that I have something I have to prove and there's a chip on my shoulder that I can do it just as well as a man can do it. Scientifically, there are some things that we cannot do as well as men. Like,
on average.
Yes,
right.
On average. Like, there are dudes that were on that SWAT team that I could never imagine being doing what they can do.
The example that I love giving when we talk about these things is the golf example. U.S. Open's this week. There are no women in the U.S. Open field. There are no women on the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour does not have a restriction against women being on the PGA Tour. They
just don't qualify.
They just can't qualify.
Yep.
The LPGA Tour, the Ladies Professional Golf Association, has a rule preventing men from being a part of the Ladies Professional Golf Association because they want it specifically for women. Because if they had no restrictions, men would take over the LPGA. That's not a knock on women. Every woman on the LPGA Tour can destroy me on the golf course. Every single one of them.
Yes.
It's not a man versus woman thing. It's a biological deal.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So here's why. What was your first thought, Brink Fidler, when you heard about the parking garage thing?
The parking garage thing.
You know, Tracy knows the parking
know.
garage thing. The fire/collapse thing that happened at the parking garage next to the
last night, right?
Yeah,
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago, next to the library. Have you not? You don't know about it? Okay, Tracy.
I know.
I'm glad you're here.
Yes, I'm
Thank
glad I'm
God.
here too.
What was your first? I thought you would have thought. I thought you would have heard about
Why
it.
did we invite him?
I don't know.
I don't know why he's here. Because he's the boss.
That's right. We have to.
By the way, I like that the real people that run the show are driving the Fords in the operation.
Yeah. Glad you noticed.
Why'd you go too different? Did you just...
Why are we having this conversation right now about our vehicles?
I don't know. Because you
Welcome to Matt Murphy's
because
brain.
you see
because pinball.
Because I brought something up and it seemed to annoy you, so I said, "Well, let's go further with that."
Yeah, he wanted to continue to poke the bear.
Because I made the joke outside in the parking lot and you didn't hear me, and Tracy did, and I thought it was a pretty good joke, so I made it again.
I did.
What was your first thought? When
What's behind, like, it didn't just collapse.
it seems suspicious to me.
Well, I mean, you got to think about the state of our country and what's happening everywhere. And it's not just coincidence that a parking garage collapses in downtown Nashville.
It's a sad state of affairs that we live in a time where that's where I go immediately. And sometimes it's justified. Sometimes it's just something that happens. Yeah. Just there's a failure in the structure. But it's sad to note that because of the proximity near the courthouse, because of where that exactly is in terms of Nashville, Tennessee, and what everything else is going on around the country, I'm thinking, what the heck happened there? And I was just wondering if I was the one that was crazy, but Tracy has confirmed that I am not.
You're not crazy.
In fact,
Yeah.
I've been thinking conspiracies for the last couple of days.
But are they really conspiracy? I mean, like,
Exactly.
it's a bad connotation, but I mean, like,
Is it a
could be.
conspiracy,
No,
or was that planned so that there would be loose rocks all over Nashville, right downtown, for when bad things happen because of what's happening in LA?
it's a sad world that we live in that we think this way, but I think smart people are thinking this way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And to your point, Brink, when they're proven true enough times, we stop calling them conspiracy theories and just call them theories.
Mm-hmm.
which continues to happen over and over and over and over again.
Y'all are seeing what's going on in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Just any general thoughts. Brink, you go first. Just, are these peaceful protests?
Yeah, right. Yeah, things burning and flipping cars over, and that's
Well, they're bringing hammers.
yeah.
I mean,
And
did y'all-
concrete blocks,
Right. And then they take the block out and they bust the block up. And
Yep.
look, automatic rocks.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Peaceful.
No,
Super peaceful.
they've learned a lot of lessons from the Summer of Love, right? And meeting force with force and doing it very quickly, and just an overwhelming amount of force has to be done. I mean, it's obvious that's exactly what they're doing when they do enact curfews and drop the hammer. It's working. I mean, you have to meet it there. Like you can't. You give them an inch, they take a mile. I mean, we saw that in Portland when they took over the freaking police building. I mean, you can't. You have to meet force with force. But here's the thing. Police using force is not pretty. It never has been. So the optics are bad. Well, sorry. Like that's just reality. But now that we live in a world where everything's on video, everybody's like, oh my God. Well, it's always been that way. You just didn't see it. You wanted to sit behind your bubble and be like, oh, that's not bad. But like, it's just ugly.
It's the narrative that the leftist on Talking Head Media came out with of the last couple of days is fascinating to me. And you laugh, but I mean, it's serious. They say, well, Trump bringing out the National Guard and these police officers being as aggressive as they are, they're escalating the situation. And I'm thinking, the police, the National Guard, the military, they're not there to escalate it. They're there to end it.
Yes.
Amen.
They're there to end the situation. And they're going to do that. And that's not going to be pretty to watch.
No.
Because there are people that don't want it to end. And it will end one way or the other. And it's really up to the people to decide how that goes, right?
Yes, and it will end by any means necessary and with a whole crap ton of force. And that's just the way it has to happen. And to your point, it will end eventually. It's like the saying we say all the time, all bleeding stops eventually too, right? Like it just does. Well, this is going to end eventually. And what that looks like for the people that are quote unquote protesting is entirely up to them.
Yep.
I mean, it's in their, their decision's in their hands. They know what their response is going to be. You can either comply or not. And if you decide not to, then that's your choice.
It feels to me like if there is not an association, direct association between city to city, that at very least the tactics that are being used city to city are being passed around.
Oh, 100%. We keep seeing it everywhere. We saw the same thing in 2020. So there is a connection. Like, I mean, we
The Soros affiliated groups,
Yes.
Antifa affiliated groups. There's a what is it called? It was a group called Indivisible that was started by Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg, who are, it's my understanding, orchestrating a lot and funding a lot of what's going on in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, so there's obvious coordination going on between groups, and it meant same for law enforcement. In talking to our law enforcement here, I mean, because I know we're primarily a Middle Tennessee audience that we have here. They were prepared in 2020. They really were. Our department was prepared. Our people were prepared. What happened? The biggest mistake then was leadership took too long to turn them loose, right? They let it get too far. Once they turned our guys loose on that crowd, like declared it an unlawful gathering, gave them an official order to disperse, and then if they don't, they turned mainly the SWAT team, but all of them loose. I mean, it was less than 20 minutes they cleared that thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm hopeful this time around that valuable lesson. I mean, obviously leadership in the White House has learned. We're seeing that you can't wait on this stuff, and I think that our leadership in the police department and in the city will understand the same thing. You can't wait. You have to do this and do it quick and put a stop to it very quickly. The guys are ready. The department's ready. They're well equipped. They're well trained. They're ready to handle whatever comes their way.
2020.
Yeah.
What happened in Nashville in 2020?
Oh, we had the courthouse that they tried to set on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We had a whole bunch of them in front of Central Precinct, and they were vandalizing police cars and assaulting police officers and all those things.
Did the Carmack statue, the one in front of the Capitol, was that when that got pulled down?
Yep. Yeah, and the one she's talking about in front of Central Precinct too, and I've got photos somewhere. I'll need to dig them up, but there were people on police cars, and some officers went up there to deal with them physically. And as they're dealing with them physically on the police car, like they're struggling with the suspect, I have a photo of a suspect trying to grab the officer's gun and take it out of their holster, and then eventually he comes up and points it at people. So, you said a minute ago we don't want to tell all the ins and outs of what has to happen before certain things can happen as far as force is used. If you do that, it's almost a guarantee force can be used. Nobody has to give them permission. Mm-mm. So don't be stupid enough to go after an officer's weapon, or they're probably going to use that on you, or their coworker's going to use their weapon on you. Like at the end of the day, that's lethal force. It's completely justified. So a lot of the times the suspect's actions are going to dictate the response of the officers, with or without whatever authority to declaring an unlawful gathering, blah, 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 blah. That's a different thing. Your actions are going to dictate the response of these officers. So peaceful protests, you'll be fine. But the minute you start acting stupid, you're going to be met with force.
In Nashville, and I don't know if anything's changed since you guys have left the force. I don't know if that is something that could happen through political changes. But if I, go with a group of my friends down to the Capitol or down to the police department or down to the mayor's office to protest, right? If I get into the street, is that automatically considered unlawful? Or, I mean, I'm what I'm asking is, if a group of people gathered down there this weekend, for example, like what are the processes that the police go through in terms of helping keep the situation calm as possible, and what steps are taken when you recognize as officers escalation on the part of the quote-unquote protesters?
Well, it's kind of a multi-part question. So we'll start with the roadway. There's a statute in Tennessee that prevents people from being able to unlawfully obstruct a public passageway. That includes a sidewalk, not just a roadway. So you are subject to arrest if you do that. If you and 10 friends want to sit on the sidewalk on Broadway and have a kumbaya, and an officer shows up and says, hey, y'all need to get up and move, and you don't, you're subject to arrest. You're blocking a public passageway. That statute still exists. So I'm sure that's one that they would certainly use in that situation. People that want to peacefully protest will go get a permit, and they'll, shut down a road and give them the road to do their thing and all that thing. I mean, it's First Amendment. We're huge fans of that, right? Done correctly. That's not what this is about. We all know that's not what this is about. If that's what it was truly about, it would be fine. But eventually, the officers have to do something before it gets out of control. And the main thing to do, and I'm sure Tracy will echo this, is shut it down on the front end. I mean, the minute one thing starts to get out of hand, and from the debrief last time in 2020, and I've talked to a ton of officers that were involved with that, supervisors. I won't even tell you how hot. I've just talked to a lot of them.
I mean, did it get? I don't mean to interrupt you, but did that get pretty hot?
Very. Mm-hmm. And they let it go way too long. When you have one of the most capable, physically capable, tactically capable men in the department, who's a lieutenant, asking for help to get out of Central Precinct, that tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
Because that dude is basically Superman. So that tells me everything I need to know. They did not turn them loose fast enough. They were too worried about the optics.
Is that a political situation? In other words,
yeah, and
who has to make who has to tell? Because most people would think that's Chief Drake's call.
No, not in that case. It wasn't. It was much slower down the chain than that. And a lot of times what happens, especially in law enforcement, I guess government, period, but stuff gets lost in translation. Like Chief Drake may say something at a meeting to his deputy chiefs, and then let's play the game of telephone. And by the time it gets down to the sergeants, it's something completely different. That happens all the freaking time in law enforcement. So they hear one thing and think, oh, well, he must mean no. So I really don't think that's going to happen again. Chief Drake was one of the first people to step up and say last time in 2020 that the biggest mistake they made was not acting fast enough. And he told that at the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police meeting. He looked at all of them in the face and admitted that. And he said that will not happen again. And I believe him. I mean, the man's a man of his word. I think they are extremely prepared, and I think they're going to do whatever it takes to protect the city.
So many different questions. I recognize that we're encroaching on Nincompoop's time. We're going to suspend Nincompoops until 6:05 this afternoon, just to make everybody aware, because we're enjoying the conversation. It's a different kind of Nincompoops in the news.
That's true. Well said.
I'm here. Not you, me. So that when you know that there's going to be, like, for example, this protest Friday morning, like, would you call it a debrief when a police chief has to talk to his deputy chiefs, and they have to talk to the captains, and they have to talk to, so that has to cascade down. I mean, do you have a specific force that's there to handle that given situation? Do you dedicate officers? You're going down there and you're going to control that area at the federal courthouse that we know a protest is going on, or how does that work?
What will happen is there will be a lot of officers across that department that have already received an email that's saying you're mandated to be on standby for this protest.
Right.
We're expecting this. There is good intel. You're on a mandate. Don't plan to go out of town. Whatever plans you have, you need to cancel, because that's the life they live.
Those are the on-call people. There will also be several groups of riot control officers staged out of sight, but they'll be close and they'll be ready, and they'll deploy and deploy quickly. Most of them are not going to be coming from home. Knowing that this is happening, they're going to be deployed in all around those places and ready to deploy at a moment's notice.
Right.
I know one thing that's happening this time that didn't happen last time is there's such an awesome interagency meeting and sharing going on, and has been for several days, among all the different agencies, not just the police department, right? FBI, Homeland, ICE, THP, there's a lot more coordination going on with multi-agencies this time around, which is also super helpful, right? Because it quintuples your resources immediately, especially if you plan ahead of time.
So you said the words unlawful assembly a little earlier, and it occurs like if you go down and you're on that little patch of property in front of the federal courthouse, and whether you have a permit or not, you're there and you got signs or whatever, and you're protesting. That is protest.
Sure.
At what point, what would have to happen to initiate a chain of events where you would call that an unlawful assembly?
It depends on several things, but when the danger to the public is obvious and exceeds the scope of the protest, then you can declare a curfew, right? Which is what happened in 2020. And here's the curfew. Here's the deadline. If you don't meet it, you're breaking the law. So the curfew hit. We're giving you an lawful order, to disperse. If you don't, you're going to be met with force. And they just sat there and they were met with force, and they were met with a lot of force, and it handled it in minutes. I mean, minutes, not hours.
I don't know if you guys saw the video, and I think this was in LA, where the reaction of the crowd, because a lot of the people in this crowd are really bad people. Okay. Yep. First and foremost, really bad people that know exactly what they're doing. But I think a lot of them are just useful idiots.
Yep.
They're there. They're just chaos people. They're there. I mean, they want to say that they're a part of something, or they want to, throw a rock at a cop or whatever. It's not good, but they're on a different level. And this particular video, you see the police, they're gathered in a line, and then there's another line, and then they close the loop. And they had already told them to disperse, and then they made an announcement, and I love it. I laugh. There was everyone inside of this circle is under arrest.
Yeah. And
they're like 50 people in there. And the little video that I saw, there's one girl that starts crying. She's like, "What? I can't be arrested." No. Well, what were you standing over here? You've probably been told 50 times that you need to leave. You did not do that. And that's the type of force that I think needs to be exhibited, not because anybody in uniform wants to do it, because they have to do it. Otherwise, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, 100%. You have to meet force with force. And I did see that video. And I think it reminds me a lot of the immigration system a little bit. Like, you've been told over and over and over again, over and over and over again, over and over and over again, and then finally something happens. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? Well, like we've told you multiple times. I would say this to people that like I wouldn't don't be a nosy Nancy this weekend. Like, don't come downtown trying to just see what's going on. If there are like, that's the last thing the officers need is more of that, like more vehicles to deal with, more chaos to deal with. I understand the curiosity. I get that. But understand these men and women have a thankless and very difficult job, especially when it comes to crowd control. Because you got to think, Matt, somebody throwing a rock at your head, that's lethal force.
100%.
So, like, don't make their job harder by just coming down here trying to see what's going on, just so you can, document history or whatever else. If you don't have to be downtown, steer clear of downtown. And I realize I'm a private citizen saying this, and I have no authority whatsoever, but I guarantee you the police department would echo the exact same thing. And I can tell you that with certainty. Just stay away from downtown if you don't have to be here. Let them handle their job. They know their job. They have the capability to do it well. They have the equipment to do it well. They have the munitions to do it well. They have everything they need to do it well. Hopefully they're given permission to do just that.
Based on your contacts and just the people that you know, and I'm not asking you to give up information that might compromise anything, but I'm asking you, do the people within the police department believe that there will be an effort to cause disruptions based on this No Kings protest that is happening all across the country? Do they believe that some of that is going to happen in Nashville?
Yes.
Well, there you go. That answers that. And so the best thing that we can do is to support our men and women in uniform, thank them when you give them the opportunity, buy them a cup of coffee or whatever, and stay out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah, especially this weekend. Yep.
Well, remember in 2020, there were people that would bring their kids down there just because they wanted their kids to be a part of what happened in 2020 and to experience what happened in 2020. And why? Why are you bringing your kids down here to experience this?
So you're kind of answering this question, but 9009, and I've got a lot of questions on the super text line, but 9009 says, can civilians help police officers, or does that muddy things up? I would think the best help that you can give is if you're a law-abiding citizen that is stay home.
But if you find yourself in a situation ever and you see an officer engaged in any kind of physical altercation whatsoever, I don't care if it's a gunfight, if you feel like that officer, they're getting the better of that officer, absolutely you can get involved. I'm not saying you should. You know your skill level. You know your skill set. We have a saying in our company that we're retired, not dead. So if we're somewhere and something happens, we're going to get involved. Like that's just the way it is. So it's not going to muddy the waters if the officers aren't handling it. If the officers are handling it and you just want to come in there and drop a knee on the dude for good measure, please don't do that. But if you feel there's an officer or two or three that there's a group getting the better of them, then by all means you can help them. Like, heck yeah, and you should. I think.
As good citizens,
absolutely, there's power in numbers.
No question. At what point would this be considered acts of terrorism? Do y'all make it that in your heads? I don't feel like you're making those judgment calls in the moment.
Officers are not. No, that's more of a prosecutorial decision, right? Based on what was the reasoning behind your actions? Was it to instill fear and terror? Yes or no? So like explosions, things like that. But that's a prosecutorial decision. That's not a decision made in the moment on arrest. And
from a chain of command perspective, God forbid any of this happen, but I feel like we need to talk about it, right? I don't want it to get bad enough where somebody has to declare curfew or someone has to say everybody's got to disperse because this is unlawful assembly. But ultimately, in the city of Nashville and Davidson County, is it the mayor making those decisions? Is it the police chief making those decisions? Who's making those decisions?
I don't know the answer to that. I think during 2020, I think it was a combination of both, but I wasn't privy to those conversations. Right. So I think at some point, I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did.
Well, and it brings up another question that I don't think any of us know the answer to, and that is the mayor still on vacation? And if he is, maybe, I don't know, maybe the mayor should get back to his city, which may or may not have civil unrest over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
And per what we're hearing from y'all sources, there's A lot of concern about that.
Yes, sir.
We want to tell people about two, not one, but two events that you guys have coming up. Talk to me.
Next week, next Friday and Saturday, the 20th and 21st, we have our Tactical Emergency Casualty Care course. That's the 2-day medical course that you attended. It's at Long Hollow Church. So if you know anybody that's in church safety, just wants to up their medical game, whatever it is, we still have slots available. You can visit don'tbleedout.com to sign up. You can also email us. You can go to our website, whatever, all the social media. It does come with a 4-year certification from NAEMT, and you get certified to put NPA airways in people and all sorts of stuff. So if you're looking to up your medical game, as I think you would attest, Matt,
you will get out of that class and you will be running around the city looking for wrecks to put tourniquets on.
Really?
And
Seriously.
not that you want people to wreck or whatever, but you're like, I got the skills to pay the bills, baby. I'm ready to go.
That's right.
Let's do this. I'm still waiting on my tourniquet.
Yeah. From me?
No. I'm waiting on the.
Oh, he
apply
wants to put one on.
I want to put one on somebody else. I don't
Okay.
want Tracy putting one on me anymore.
Listen.
Thank you very much.
That was an epic picture, by the way. But yes, so that's
Send
coming
that
up
out.
on the 20th and 21st at Long Hollow Church. So we'd love to fill it up. We got a few slots left, so reach out to us, please. And then the other event is if you guys know any teachers, we do a free training event for teachers every year, and that is coming up week after, actually 2 weeks from today. You can just have them get in touch with us. There's a link to register on our website. So any teacher anywhere in the state, actually anywhere, but it's at Westminster Presbyterian Church. They're hosting the venue on West End, but it's 2 weeks from today. So if you know a teacher that you would like to go through our training and has not gone through our training, then please have them reach out and sign up for that. That event is free. We have an anonymous donor that does this every year, takes care of everything, food and everything else.
That's awesome.
For us to train teachers for free. So
Good for that donor.
Yep.
And thank you for everything that you guys do at Defense Systems. And thank you for your level of expertise to kind of shed a light as to what our officers are going to be going through this weekend.
Yes,
I mean, with everything that is in front of us in Nashville and beyond. We appreciate what y'all do. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.